If you and I were sitting together at lunch today and you asked me how I got into this business, I'll smile, I'll blush a little bit, and I'll tell you that I started working as an assistant for another advisor and was eventually approached by my community bank, where I went to build out the investment department there. What I won't tell you is that I've been inside a federal prison, I've had a front row seat to 2 SEC investigations, and I've wanted to quit this business a million times over. Let me tell you my story. I graduated from Purdue with a double major in clinical psychology and social work. I worked for about a year in the social services bureaucracy, earning less than I had as a waitress throughout school, and realized this wasn't the way that I was going to save the world. I began giving piano lessons and looking for part-time work to fit the hours my son was in school. I live in DeMotte, a 2-stoplight town in the northwest corner of Indiana, population 3,200, about half of whom are my cousins. A local CFP was looking for a part-time assistant. This provided the flexibility that I needed. I loved this work and was energized by it. Before long, I was licensed and taking clients of my own. The advisor I worked for was in his 50s, and I envisioned learning the business from him and taking over the practice at his retirement. I cut my teeth in this business like maybe others of you have, setting up tiny IRAs and $100 UTMA accounts. I loved explaining the complicated to people that finally got it and whose lives were better for it. I remember my first big account, a $13,000 rollover. I'd earned $300 for spending an hour with my client. I couldn't believe that I had found something that I loved to do and got paid like that. My future in this business and what it meant to my family seemed almost perfect. However, on a June Saturday night, less than a year after I'd started, my boss came over to my house and said, "It's going to come out on Monday that I've been taking client money." And it's true. As it turns out, since starting his business almost 20 years earlier, this advisor had been operating a Ponzi scheme. I knew he was disorganized, I knew he was a procrastinator, and he spent way too much time out of the office, but I thought that's what I was for. We had had lots of conversations about how together we would grow this business and it would benefit both of us. Unbeknownst to me, he had a separate file cabinet, a separate laptop, and clients earning 8% on an investment that didn't exist. I never had a clue. Some of the victims I had gotten to know as they had come through the office. Others were people in my church, family members, and friends. I knew these people. I had grown up with them because, you see, the advisor I worked for was my dad. I cannot describe to you the shock and the shame that I felt and how badly I wanted to crawl into a hole. However, now the word was out and clients that had legitimate investment accounts were left without an advisor. They were transferring to the competition, including a brand new Edward Jones office in town. If I was going to continue on, I had to act now. Over the next several months, with an unbelievable amount of support from my husband and close friends, I was able to salvage about half of that book of business and make it my own. I operated from an old kitchen table in our basement, and each signed broker-dealer packet that showed up in my mailbox, I took as a vote of confidence that I should continue on, that I would be willing to or be able to regain the trust of this community and be successful as an advisor in my own town. However, the other shoe hadn't fallen yet. Just 6 months after the word came out about my dad, I received a call from the broker-dealer. Their doors were closed. The CEO had run off with her client's money and had last been seen in a bank in Switzerland. As it turns out, she had confronted my dad about her suspicions of his fraud, but hadn't reported him to the NASD or SEC for fear of exposing herself. I was left with skittish clients that I had to confront with more upheaval, and I was without a firm. Clearly, at this point, it occurred to me to hang it up. It would have been so much easier to be done. But a big part of me was too stubborn to admit I couldn't do this, and I wanted it badly enough to see through and do whatever it took to get to the other side. My mantra became, march unflinchingly towards the seemingly impossible. I've always collected quotes. I've handwritten them down in journals, and when times are tough, I grab a journal and start flipping pages. One of my favorites is, courage has two parts. The first part is the courage to begin, to start, to launch forward with no guarantee of success. The second part is the courage to endure, to persist when you feel discouraged and want to quit. I know that courage is not only setting your sights and choosing that lofty goal that you have set your sights on, but it's choosing that goal over and over and over again. Therein lies the victory. But therein lies the true battle. Having only been in the business less than 18 months with no one to turn to, certainly no mentor, I chose a new broker-dealer out of the back of Registered Rep magazine and continued on. It was at this point that I really began to become a student of mental toughness. I read books on increasing confidence. I read articles on persistence, resilience, optimism. I fought hard against self-doubt, negative thoughts, and insecurity. I learned ways to refuel when times were the worst, and avoided, like you would a deadly disease, things that dragged me down. One of the broker-dealer packets I had mailed out to a former client of my dad's, whom I had never met, was returned to me unsigned, but written all over in blue and red marker. It said, "What a joke. Ha ha, you've got to be kidding." Through my tears, I burned that paperwork and washed it down the garbage disposal. I literally was not going to let those words stay in my head or my house. In order to begin building credibility and networking for my new business, I threw myself into community involvement, logging hundreds of hours on the Chamber Board, Rotary Club, Community Foundation. Today, I point to these activities as the source of some of my favorite clients. But for a long time, it was hard even to go into the grocery store for fear of running into somebody I knew. I was so ashamed of what my dad had done. But as time passed, I knew that if I was going to be successful as an advisor in this community, I had to get over it and learn to hold my head up again. About 2 years after this all came out as the ultimate stare fear in the face, my husband built a parade float, and I participated in DeMott's annual Touch of Dutch festival. I marched right down Main Street, smiling, handing out candy and refrigerator magnets. Eventually, my business began to grow, and within a couple of years, I was approached by the community bank where I moved and run my practice today. What I've gained from this ordeal is a pretty high benchmark for life's challenges. This experience has given me the ability to handle other tough times, both personally and professionally. My determination and perseverance muscles are strong. I've learned other things as well. For too long, I thought that I had to wait for the next designation. I had to wait for the next bit of knowledge, and then I would be ready to fully put myself out there. Then I could approach that next big prospect. Competence is non-negotiable, but so is the need to just get out there and do it, to push yourself right from the safety of your old comfort zone into new territory. That's where the growth comes from. I've also learned the value of connections to other advisors and mentors. One conversation with the right person can save you months of your own time in practice management. I've so enjoyed sharing ideas with others and encouraging them. When you combine friendships with advisors and clients you like, this business becomes fun. This is rarely just a job to me. Finally, I've learned the need to regularly take stock, to measure, to look back. Some days I only feel as good as the activity the hour before. It's easy to fall into discouragement if that hour wasn't a good one. But when I look further back, review metrics, touch on goals I've met, I can see how far I've come. And I can also see how close I'm getting to where I'm going. I do hope that now that I've shared my story with you, you can be reminded that the toughest of times do end, that adversity strengthens survival skills like nothing else can, and that this business is a great one worth fighting for. What keeps you going when times get tough? My hope for you is that you will march unflinchingly towards the seemingly impossible and claim your own victory.